All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Team Training Tuesday afternoon webinar, Beyond the Basic Boutonniere. We're really happy to have you join us this afternoon. If this is your first webinar, welcome. We're really glad that you can join in on the hands-on portion, and hopefully you'll stay around for the marketing as well, because really the two go hand in hand. It's not just important enough for us to show you all the wow and the beautifuls and the pretty flowers, and then we have to teach you how to make those items, but it's really most important that you know how to sell those items. So hanging around to our marketing session following our hands-on session is really super important. So before we get started here, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me and see me. And so if you're having any technical difficulties, now's your chance to let us know that. If you're logged on and you can't see me, there should be a little like chat area where you can type in a question or type in a comment, and you can let us know that way that you're having some problems, or you can send us a quick email and we'll get those resolved right away, because we don't want you to miss anything that we're sharing with you this afternoon. So I'm going to give you just a couple seconds to make sure everybody is on and is able to hear and see. And if I don't hear back from Jamie in our home office that we're having any problems, I can continue on. All right. Looks like everybody is up and running. So again, welcome to our Beyond the Basic Boutonniere webinar. We're really excited to bring this to you. Boutonnieres are an extremely important part of the prom. I know when we first think of prom, we always think of the girl and her corsage, but really most of them are going with dates, and he needs to be accessorized just as much as the girl. And he really is just as important as the girl, because these young kids, these are our future customers. And in our messages, in our marketing messages, if you've ever joined us before, you hear how we say connect with the girl. Well, this is our opportunity to connect with the prom guy. He's going to be coming around to buy flowers. Maybe he's gotten himself in the doghouse and he needs to buy a bouquet for his girlfriend or eventually his wife. So we want to start training them now and getting them interested in flowers now. So this is your opportunity to show him how creative you can be with his boutonniere, and to get him really enthusiastic and inspired by your design, so he keeps coming back and shopping with you for his future flower needs. So we're going to do 3 projects today. I'm going to show you the samples that we're going to create, then we'll get started. Our first sample is on one of our boutonniere bands, and this is our Florentine boutonniere band. If you're familiar with our boutonniere bands, they do come with the magnets, and if you're not, these magnets are a great way to secure this boutonniere onto the lapel. It's easy for the girl to use, no more fumbling with the pins, and it's definitely going to stay put and not slip around. You know, a lot of times when we have to pin on that boutonniere, it goes one way, and by the time the pictures are taken or the end of the night, it starts to turn around. So we've come up with a lot of our products have those boutonniere or the magnets right on the back of the boutonniere to make sure that stays really tight and secure in that area. So that's one of the projects. Our other project we're going to create, it's kind of a modified version of the boutonniere band, because we want to make sure that we're offering all different types of price points. So we've got something that mimics the band, which is actually our River of Diamonds, and that is created on one of our design disc on the magnet there. And so we're going to create that too. That way it allows you to offer 2 different price points and kind of have the same type of look or the same feel. And then our third item is actually going to be designed on one of our real popular boutonniere holders, which is the rocket. And our rockets are available in 3 colors. It's available in the 24 karat, which I've used here, and also a black, and then also a sterling. So these are our 3 projects. So our first project we're going to start with is the boutonniere band. So if you'll gather your items if you're following along. If not, give me one moment to make sure I have all my products here. So I've got my boutonniere band, and I've got some leaves here that I'm going to use. Let's see, what did I do with those? Here they are. Grab them. Oh, it's stuck on a magnet over here. Come on off there. There we go. I'm actually going to use some of the chic leaves. On the sample I'm making here, we have the flowing willow for this one, but really you can use just about any of our foliages. I've even got some rose leaves here that are fun to use. I'm going to open up those as well. Okay. I'm going to get this out of the package, and I'm going to lower my screen so you can watch what I'm doing. There we go. You can see my design desk now. And we're going to use the floral adhesive from Oasis, as well as some U-glue dashes in the construction of our boutonniere today. So when I'm constructing on the boutonniere band, I like to leave the band kind of sitting on the packaging that it comes into. The bands, you'll see, have an open pattern to them, and sometimes if we get a little bit heavy with our glue, it will seep through. So I just find it's easier to hold on to, easier to handle, and easier to design with if I leave that packaging in place while I'm creating the boutonniere. So the first step we're going to do, let's see if I can put this off to the side here so that you can kind of see it as I'm creating, if it doesn't get in my way, is I'm going to take the dashes, the U-glue dashes, and I'm going to line, starting at the top off to one side, I'm going to line the band with some of the dashes. Now, one of the questions we have received quite often during these webinars is it okay to construct the entire piece using the U-glue dashes? And you know, honestly, our answer has always been, we know they're useful, we know a lot of you are using them, but we really weren't sure because we've really kind of stuck with the glue, and that's what we prefer. We really haven't done a lot of testing to see how they hold up and how they secure in other areas of corsage and boutonniere making. So, you know, I was with some representatives from Oasis this past weekend, and so I thought, you know what, why not go right to the source and get the answer so we can finally give you the proper answer when you question that. And what we were told is that the U-glue dashes are best used when you're applying a flat surface to a flat surface. They're not meant to hold anything that's going to be wet, so using them to secure your flowers is not the best idea and is not something that they recommend. But in this case, we have metal, which we know is slippery, and a lot of times if we add glue to that, it's going to take a little bit longer for the glue to set up on a metal surface because it doesn't have pores. It's not porous. So our items will slip around a little bit. So these U-glue dashes come in really handy to help us form a base, because we're going to be using a flat foliage with our lily grass and then our flat surface with our boutonniere band. So this is the perfect application based on their recommendations, flat to flat, and as long as it's not wet, to secure our foliage right to our boutonniere band. So I just have a couple pieces here of the lily grass, and you can see I am actually creating my pieces using permanent botanical items instead of fresh items. Probably the main reason I'm doing that is, you know, we've always talked about making sure you have your prom display, your bling buffet, and a lot of samples on hand to show the kids when they're coming in to look at and select their prom corsages and boutonnieres. By doing this in the permanent botanicals, especially while you're following along with us on the webinars and when you're practicing, is to do them in the permanent botanicals, then you're creating your samples for your display. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. So I have my, my lily grass here, or the equal of it in the permanent botanicals. And I'm just going to start here right at the top, and I'm going to lay that right along that edge where I have the dash. And that's going to stay very secure right in that place. I'm going to come along and put another piece just press that down, and now that stays very nicely and secure because I have a flat surface to a flat surface, exactly how they were intended to be used. And I can now then start gluing the rest of my items to the foliage, because the foliage is a little more porous, so that's going to allow that the floral adhesive to hold securely onto that. I want to kind of get these strips out of the way, unless you have you want a real dramatic boutonniere with the extra long tails. But in my case, I'm just going to kind of snip those, and I'm going to do them on an angle. I want to give it a little bit of interest. So I just clip them on an angle there. And then I have here, you can see there's a seam where the two are together, and it's not something that's distracting in any way, but it gives me the opportunity to add a little bling bling right there to cover up that seam. So I'm going to come in with a little piece of the River of Diamonds, and I'm just going to kind of measure how long that is. Get it up to the top here. Just kind of eyeball measure it there, snip it. And really all I need is one row of the gems, so I can cut that right off. And I have another little, I like to keep a few of these packing backings that are the boutonniere pieces, and a lot of our brooches and other accessories come on. It's kind of a hard, really smooth plastic, and I keep these so I can set those down when I'm gluing. It's actually a little bigger one. Let's do that. There we go. That way I'm not getting a whole lot of glue on my work table. I'm going to go ahead and put a thin bead of glue right down the entire strip of those gems, making sure I get a little bit on every single one. Now, if you've noticed, I'm holding my glue from the very end, and I'm really just tipping it up and letting gravity pour the glue out. That way I have a little better control of the glue. Every once in a while I'll give a little squeeze when I need it, but I always just hold it from the bottom and let the gravity pour the glue out onto my pieces. So now I'm just going to take that and apply it right over that seam of my grass, kind of camouflaging it. Like I said, it wasn't really distracting, but it just gave me an opportunity to add another little sparkle element to the boutonniere. Just kind of finishes it off nicely. I can come back in with a couple orchids. And I'm going to make sure I snip off the stem. And you would do this very similar if you were using fresh orchids, as you would snip off that stem right as close to the back of the petals as you can. And then take your glue and apply it right over that cut. We want to make sure we seal that cut. That way it helps maintain moisture. So we seal that cut. And then I also put a little bit of glue on those back petals surrounding that stem. That's going to ensure me that I have real good contact with the glue when I attach it to where I want it to permanently rest. Okay, I'm going to go back to the one I did first. Those few seconds of allowing it to get tacky certainly help in the construction, helps hold it in place more immediately. So I'm going to place it where I want it to be, and then I'm going to just slightly pick it up. And what that does is it allows a little bit of the glue that I've put on the back of the orchid to be placed where I want the orchid to finally rest. Glue to glue adhesion, that contact, that glue to glue contact, is what really helps that bond connect and make sure those flowers are going to stay in place. So pull it away, put it back down. I'm just going to give them a nice little nice little push to make sure they're in place where I want them. And you can see that they're already staying nicely put in the place where I want them to stay. They're not flopping around. And if they do, that's okay. Don't get worried. Just go back in and maybe slightly press the petals back to back, or just push them down slightly. But now they're sticking very nicely where they are, and they're not going to move. Our next little treatment, I've planned to use our chic leaves, and I've actually curled them slightly. So I'm going to put some glue on the end of one of those. And I'm going to make sure it's on the back and the front. Just going to come in there and tuck that up in there, pull it out slightly, and then put it back in. Now, I have one more. I need to just cut off a little bit of this stem because I don't need quite as long as I thought I would. Put my glue. And if a little bit too much starts to come up, just upright the tube and use what's kind of pouring over to dab onto whatever it is that you're working with. I'm going to put that up here at the top. That was another little accent, and just to show you how another little foliage looks. I love our rose leaves because they really give you a lot of bang for your buck. You can use it just as it is. We can cut it apart, which is what I'm going to do here. Just going to remove that first large leaf. And I think I'll come back in, kind of bend it down so I can get in there with my wire snips. And disconnect that. So then I can come, and I'm going to add just a little embellishment on the bottom as well. Get that a little tacky. I'm going to come and I'm just going to put that right down on top of that, press it, pick it back up, and press it down. So it has a finished edge to it. Add a little more layer and texturing to it. There we go. I'm actually going to take this medium-sized leaf and I'm going to just give it a little bend, a little arch to it. Now here's another area, because this is metal and I'm going to attach it here on top to metal. This is another opportunity for me to use the dash, because again it's that metal surface, and if I use the glue, it's going to slide around until it has time to set up. And you know, when we're doing production and we're doing, you know, 100 boutonnieres for prom, we don't always have the luxury of those extra few seconds to let things set up. So that's where this is going to be really helpful. Now, I will tell you, I'm really sensitive about my mechanics, so I'll go back in and I'll just put a little teeny tiny dollop of glue there, because now I know the U-glue dash is going to hold it in place while I place it. So I can go ahead and leave it, but when that glue sets up, it's really definitely not going to go anywhere. But we're not done yet. In our sample here, you can see I added a little bit more drama and movement by using the lily grass in almost like a caging effect over the top of the boutonniere. It kind of gives the viewer, you know, gives them kind of a little, like, we have to peer inside the cage to see what's actually inside it. So it's a little more interesting to look at from a viewer's perspective. And it's certainly much more fun to wear. I'm going to take my stem of bear grass or lily grass, and I'm going to reflex it a little bit. And by doing that, you just rub it through your fingers, maybe against your fingernail, to just kind of soften it and break that spine that runs down that. That allows you to get an easier curve or bend to it without it cracking or breaking. Now, of course, because this is permanent botanical, it's real easy for me to do that. But it works the same way if you're using the fresh bear grass or lily grass. Just be careful with the bear grass, because we all know how sharp those edges are, and it will give you a paper cut like slice on your fingers if you get a wrong edge on that. So just be careful. But the same thing works. You just go ahead and reflex it a little bit with the warmth of your hands. I'm going to cut that on an angle. Just it's easier to tuck into the nooks and crannies when it's cut on an angle as opposed to blunt. I'm going to come back in, add my glue to the top, the bottom, both sides, and also if it's fresh, I want to make sure I cover that cut with a little bit of glue as well. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to slip it in. Pull it out, slip it back in, so I make sure that there's glue to glue contact. And then I'm just going to kind of give it a second to cure. I'm going to come down and figure out where it is I want it to finally rest. Cut off my excess. Actually, I need a little bit more cut off. Add my glue. To the end of that, and come in and tuck it underneath that leaf. I'm just going to take my finger here and press down to make sure I'm making contact. It's kind of sticking in there nicely, but I just want to make sure it has contact. And that's how you create that nice arch of the lily grass. So let me go ahead and do one more. Reflexing it. Giving that cut on that diagonal. My glue to the top and bottom of the piece of grass. Come in here and tuck it down in there. Pull it out a little bit, making sure it's making contact where I want it to make contact. Press it down a little bit. Just give it a second there to set up. Figure out where I want it to go and cut off the excess. Get my glue on that. And then go ahead and press that into where I want it to eventually rest. Hold it down for a second to make sure I have that contact. And there we go. Actually, take this off. And there we have our completed boutonniere. Certainly something that is a little bit more fashion forward. It definitely is more of a piece of floral jewelry, which is really the direction we want to go in with our boutonnieres. The guys today, they really are a lot more informed. They have the ability to search for anything on their phones, and so they're more aware of artistic items and are a little bit more open-minded to wearing some of the pieces that are not so traditional, not your typical rose with baby's breath and ivy. They're just a little more open-minded, which gives us a great opportunity to show off our talents and create something fun for them to wear for their prom. So, do we have any questions from everybody about this style of boutonniere or anything of the construction methods that I did? Do you need me to repeat anything? If so, go ahead and write in your questions and they'll let me know and we can get those answered. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and clear off my space and get prepared for the second boutonniere. Okay. Well, you're being real quiet out there, but please know that if you have a question, we want to hear it. Chances are, if you're wondering about it, so is somebody else. So we want to make sure that we answer all your questions. Let's see here. We're going to be using. This is actually, we changed the style of this. This used to be kind of a square, not quite a perfect square, but it had the squared edge. And we have found through just listening to our customers that they liked a rounded shape. And we found it a little bit easier to use. You didn't have to cover it up quite as much as you did with the square. And then we added the more powerful magnet to get the new and improved version here. So we're really excited about the design disc because it just really is an easy to use item for boutonnieres, but it's also fun. You can use this for corsage work. You can use this to attach items to the corner of your tables if you're trying to do some ribbon treatments or the ruched treatments to, say, cake tables. We also see this being used on napkins and chair backs for weddings and events. So, although it's in our boutonniere section of our catalog, it certainly has many different uses to it. That magnet really frees you up and lets your creativity run wild. You could actually put something on here and glue this, or use the magnet to hold it to a vase and have floating things through the vase that way. I don't know if it would work on my glass. If I drop it in my glass, that would be, see? So you could attach items to a vase that way as well. So anyways, this is going to be our mechanic for our boutonniere. Like I said, not everybody, if maybe the budget is really small, but you still want to do something, it's not that these boutonniere bands are extremely expensive. They really are not. They're quite affordable, and the labor it takes to put them together makes them a great accessory for prom and an affordable accessory. But we also know that sometimes you just have that customer who just can't go into something like this, but they certainly can use something like this. It gives you the same look. The other thing about using the River of Diamonds is that it's available in so many different colors. And I don't have all the different colors here, but say if the girl had a cobalt or royal blue dress, you could use the blue. Maybe she's wearing black and silver. We have the black. There's shades of pinks and purples and greens and golds. There's just really so many different choices that it really gives you that flexibility to customize the color. And so that's what I'm going to do here. I am going to use the blue for this particular piece that I'm making. I'm going to set that right there so you can see it. I'm going to go ahead and open my goodies. Sorry for the cellophane bag rumbling. But here we have the Infinity Plus, part of our Kara's Kisses line. We need a couple of the chic leaves. I have those here in the silver. And I need 1 or 2 dendrobium orchids, so I have those as well. First thing we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my back, and I'm just going to keep that right on one of these backs. Gives me a little bit larger surface to hold on to, so my fingers aren't right here and in the glue. I'm going to go ahead and put a thin, it's a little bit globbed up. Save those cellophane bags and use those to clean off your nozzle there of your glue once it gets a little bit too messy. And then we've got a thin but solid layer of glue that we're going to put over this entire disc. You can kind of see that. It's covered, the entire disc, all the way out to the outer edges is covered, but it's not so thick that it's running over the sides. I'm going to take my strip, kind of measure it about how long I want it. If I make it too long, it will get a little floppy. So I don't want it to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and place that right over the top of that. Press it down. Okay. I'm going to come back in again with my lily grass or bear grass. And here's another opportunity for me to use this on a flat surface. So I'm just going to put a couple of these here in the center. Take that off. And again, I like to make sure, so I'm just going to put a little bit of the glue on here. I know it seems like I'm doing a little bit overkill, but I'd rather have it done a little bit over than not enough. So the U-glue dash allows it to attach quickly, and I know it's going to be in place and stay secure, so I can continue working. And that little dab of glue, the floral adhesive that I put on, is going to just assure me that it's not going to go anywhere later on. I don't really have to worry if I'm level or even up here, because that's actually going to be covered by the orchids once I put those on there. But I do want to kind of consider how I want the end to be. Do I want them to be random? Do I want it to be precise? That's up to you. Whatever you want. I'm going to do one more.
Suzie?
Yes.
Is the magnet in the center of the River of Diamonds?
Ask me that one more time. I could hardly hear you, Jamie.
Is the magnet in the center of the River of Diamonds?
Yes, it is. And I can show you that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, one more piece, a little bit of glue. You can see where I'm going here. There's just a little bit, if you can see that, just a little separation between the two. I didn't want them, or the three pieces of the grass. I didn't necessarily want it to all look the same and look like one solid piece. So I just left a little slight opening between all of them. And this is the point where we'll come in and add our orchids. So I'm going to cut those close again, just like I did the other ones. Making sure I get that glue over that cut and then a little bit onto the petals around it. Set that off to the side. It will get tacky while I'm putting the glue on this one. Put that in place where I want it to go. Pull it back, put it down, come back in with my second one. Do that same thing, push it in, pull it out, put it back. I'm just going to kind of hold the two together for a little bit to make sure they're going to stay securely where I want them to. Actually, the silk are a little stiffer than the real, so I'm get right in there with my fingers and hold it down. You know, I find that when I first started working with the glue, my patience of making sure everything was staying where I wanted it to stay, my struggles always came from it popping up or it falling out. And I've learned over the years that just a little bit of patience, if it's not sticking exactly immediately, then go ahead and just take the time to put it into place, hold it down, because in the long run, it will go quicker than if you keep trying to put it in and it falls out, and then you add more glue, and then you put it back in. It's just do it right the first time, and then it alleviates having to kind of fix the mistakes or getting too much glue later on. So just a little bit of patience, which is sometimes hard for us because the phones are ringing and there's customers at the counter, and you know, we've got a lot of orders to do. I understand that, but sometimes that's just what we need.
Susie,
Yes.
if you have a larger bloom, would just one work on this?
Absolutely. I just did the one here for this one. But it was a different type of orchid that I used on this one that I did, and I just thought these were a little thinner, kind of like the Hawaiian dendrobiums, and so they're a little spindlier and more spidery in their appearance, so that's why I used two, but you certainly could use just one. You could use a ranunculus, you could use some roses, you could deconstruct some roses and use just some petals. There's a lot of different flower varieties that you can use to create, once you have your base, your foundation, just about any blossom will work in some shape or form for that. So good question. Thank you, whoever asked it. I'm going to come in with my leaf, my chic leaf, tuck it in, pull it out, tuck it back in because I want to make sure that it makes contact and it has that glue-to-glue contact. I'm repeating myself a lot, but that's how important it is. As an adhesive, it needs to have glue-to-glue to form that permanent bond. So it's a very important part of the design process. Glue on both sides. I'm going to pick up my petal here, and I want this to kind of go underneath it. Put it in, pull it out, put it back in. You can see it right there. I love these chic leaves because they just have that little tiny little bit of a rhinestone touch to them, and they're masculine and feminine at the same time. I know that's kind of sounds funny, but I think the shape of them is very architectural. So that lends itself to being more masculine. But with that little teeny tiny just gem there, just sparkling, I think that's what brings a little softer touch to it. So they're a really versatile foliage for just about any use. So now it's time to add some blingity bling bling. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the pins, the stems. And when I do that, it provides a nice little like well here. There's a missing gem where the stem went in, and so that provides a nice little well there for me to add my glue. I'm going to fill up that well. I really want to make sure there's enough glue in there, but I don't want it to spill out all over the place. So get them all done. And I know it's that few seconds of getting them prepared this way and then going back and grabbing that first one. It seems kind of insignificant, but it really, really does help. That little bit of tackiness. And if you're fortunate enough like myself, I live in a very dry climate that dries out even quicker. Put it where I want it to go, pull it up, and then place it down. Just continue on. Oh, I didn't get enough glue in that one. I can see that already. There we go. actually put that aside so I can come back to this one. I don't think I got enough glue in that one either. There we go. Put it where I want it, pull it off, put it back down. Put it where I want it, take it off, and put it back down. That one's just not going to play nice. There we go. I think it's sticking to me more than it's sticking. There we go. It's all in place now. And there we go. Our finished boutonniere. So you have now two different options. If they like that band look, but maybe you need to add in a touch of color, using the River of Diamonds to create that strip, that band, is a great alternative to creating a fashion-forward boutonniere. Okay, do we have any questions on that? I've been out on the road this past couple weeks doing quite a few prom workshops, and there's a lot of proms happening already. So I'm assuming if you're here with us this afternoon that you don't have a prom this weekend, but maybe you have one coming up shortly. So we're really excited to have you here so you can be better prepared for your upcoming prom and hopefully take away some of these fun ideas for you and your design team to create and offer for prom. Our last project, boutonniere project today, is using our rocket boutonniere holder with the magnet, some chic leaves, and orchids and lily grass. I really wanted to show you just some real basic techniques because this is really like the foundation of going to the next step in expanding all your different types of boutonniere designs. Once you learn how to work with our products and get familiar with how easily things are bent or manipulated, how you can add layers of our products to create different effects, I think that's where your creativity begins, and then your imagination takes these beautiful boutonnieres to the next level. So on this one, our rocket actually comes with a little stopper inside. Now you can leave that in if you need a smaller opening for your boutonniere, or you can take it out. And in this case, I'm going to take it out because I want that full, the full span there of that opening. I want to be able to use it all. I'm actually going to fill that entire opening, and so I'm just going to kind of discard that or set it aside, because if you're like me, you look at it and say, well, I might be able to use that for something later. So by the time you're done with prom, you'll have a whole little Tupperware container filled of these little stoppers if you take them out. So that's where I'm going to start. And what I want to do first, before I start adding any of my product to it, is I want to enhance the actual boutonniere holder. Now it's cool and certainly can be used on its own. It's fun. It's really trendy. It's definitely not feminine in any way. It's kind of like a spike, but it's just really fun. But I want to add something to it. You know, nothing is done until it's overdone. So let's go ahead, and since we can, we're going to add to it. And I'm going to add just a couple of the leaves. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure, I'm actually going to put this on this way. I want to make sure I know where the front of this is, because I find if I hold on to it in my hand, I rotate it, and then what I think is the front really is the side. And so by keeping it on this backing, I can honestly see where my front is. There's no guessing, and I don't end up with a crooked boutonniere in the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chic leaf, and I'm going to put it on top and kind of get my positioning of where I want it. And then I'm going to just kind of slightly start to bend it. And using the warmth of my hand, and I don't need that stem on there, I could take that off. I did on the first one, but I think on this one I just came up with another idea for it. I'm just going to go ahead and give it some curl. Just add another element to the boutonniere. So I want to place it on there, and I want it to be able to sit as pretty flat. So I kind of have to take my time and bend the leaves, maybe place it over my finger and press down a little bit. So not only is it curved this way, it's curved this way, so that it forms naturally around the round boutonniere holder. Once I get it kind of formed, then I'm going to go ahead and use one of my U-glue dashes, put that on where I want it to be, and that's going to hold it on there nicely for me. You can see how that's already sitting on there. If I want to, I can come back in and just kind of press it down a little bit more, and then I can wrap that all the way around. I've got one more. I'm going to do the same thing too. This one's going to be a little bit lower. Go ahead and take it. Whenever I'm going to manipulate the stem, I want to make sure that I put my finger over that solder point. That just by nature is a weak point. And so when we want to make sure the stem is on, we want to use it, we want to put our little finger over that and hold that solder point secure. It's something I always forget to do. And so the fact that I'm remembering it this time, I want to be sure to share that with you so you know that little trick. Because if you don't, you run the risk of snapping that right off. So again, I'm going to kind of just put it on here and figure out where I want it to go. And if I need to, I'll take my needle nose pliers to help me bend that so I get that nice form. Just take some practice, but the fact that you can do this is fun. You just got to kind of have, again, those patience really come into play here. And then once you get the hang of working with the product and you see what it can do, it really opens up those doors for you. And you become comfortable with the product. So you're not afraid to take some of those design chances and to, manipulate it and try to use it in different ways. A lot of times what stops us from being creative is we're intimidated by ourselves or we're intimidated by the product. And so hopefully when you're joining us for these webinars, we're alleviating a few of those little things that make you intimidated and not sure how to use the product. So again, I have my dash on there, and I'm going to just come over and set that right on top where I want it to be. Make sure I press down so I'm making sure it's really staying secure. Now if I want to, I can just come back in and give it a little more of a bend. Maybe in this time I just want it to bend up, give it another little motion. And so now I'm ready to start adding my flowers. These little curly cues, they just add another layer of interest into the boutonniere and actually into the holder itself. So I didn't do that in this one, it's just embellished it with the leaves, but I got a little more inspired this time. All right, our next step then is I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze a little bit of this glue right down into that holder. And I want it to just go ahead and run all the way down in. It's not a whole lot. I'm being very gentle in how I'm squeezing that. But there's just enough so I know that it ran all the way to the very bottom, and it's got a little bit on the sides as well. I know you're not going to be able to see that because it's dark, but trust me, I just stuck the nozzle down in there and poured a little bit of the glue into it. Then the easy part comes, is I'm just really going to start inserting my lily grass right in there and then clipping it off. At random lengths. I don't have to waste any. This is a good way to use all those little stems and pieces that you have left after creating some of your other corsages and boutonnieres, and that's important, that you're not wasting any of your fresh product. And so boutonnieres like this really give you that opportunity to use those bits and pieces that might otherwise end up on the design room floor or in the trash can. I'm making sure I tuck it way down in. And you can see it's becoming very dimensional. It's not flat at all. Because I took that stopper out, it allowed the grass to kind of relax and kind of sit on the outside rim so that it's not all bunched up tight. And I think it's important for our boutonnieres not to come out flat. I think they need to have that depth and focal point area. After all, boutonniere designing and corsage designing all should still have those elements and principles of design. There's really no difference. Just because they're small miniature pieces doesn't mean that we can forget our elements and principles and you know, forego having balance and rhythm and line and texture and focal point. All those things are important. So now we can come in and add in our flowers. So again, I'm using the dendrobium orchids, but we could certainly, I don't have any with me, otherwise I would. We can stick a couple sweetheart or spray roses down in there. Alstroemeria blossom, hyacinth blossoms would be beautiful. You could even do a couple little succulents, would be neat and interesting attached in there. But just really, whatever floral you have available can be used. This is also a great way when you have those little stems that only have 1 or 2 blossoms left because you picked them all off for your corsages. Make sure you're including them in your boutonnieres. Okay, so on this one I'm going to leave my stem a little bit longer, and you could do that also too for your dendrobium. And I'm going to make sure that I get the glue on the tip where I cut it and all the way down the stem, and even a little bit on those back petals. Need to clear a little space here. There we go. I'm going to come back and do that on my second dendrobium. Same thing. I left the stem just a little bit longer because I wanted to be able to tuck down in there just to make sure that it's going to hold a little more securely. Make sure I have the glue all the way up on that stem, covering that cut, and then onto the petals, the back of the petals, just a little bit. And come back in. We can insert the first dendrobium in. I'm going to actually pick it up because I want to make sure I've got glue where I need it. I'm going to come back in with my second towards the back and off to the side. Push it in, pull it back out. I'm just going to make sure that I push those down in to make sure they're really making contact and they're staying securely. And there we have our finished boutonniere. With or without the curlicues, I actually like the little curlicues using those stems. So do we have any questions on that construction, on that project? If not, I do have a few samples I want to show you, some other boutonniere ideas, just to give you a little inspiration and send you on your way. So a couple other boutonnieres made out of the boutonniere bands. Here we have our Grecian band, and this time I created the band to be worn horizontally instead of vertically, although really you could turn it any way you want because it's designed to go either way, but that's with some little spray roses on there, again with the chic leaves. I've used pretty much the exact same product I did in the other one, just designed a little differently. And I love that idea of, you know, we sometimes get caught up in the need to design production work, especially when we're dealing with a high volume holiday where we have to make numerous items. And so in order to make our lives easier, we think, oh, let's just do production and let's, you know, do all of these. This is our boutonniere, and the only thing that's going to change is the color of the flower. Well, really, that doesn't make it personalized, and no kid wants to go to their prom, whether it be the girl or the guy, and see 100 of their corsages or 100 of their boutonnieres worn by all their classmates. They want a little individuality, and they want to add their own personality to their accessories. And so offering something like this where you would have the 3 different boutonniere band styles, you can still work production-wise because you know you're going to create the boutonniere on the band, and that gives them 3 styles to pick from. So one guy may love this and hate this and think that's okay, or one guy may love this and not like these 2. So you're letting them pick which one they want. Then you can come in and you can have 4 or 5 different flower varieties that are going to be available, and you can allow them to pick what flower variety and what color they're going to have. So really the flower goes here and the flower goes there, but you're going to have a different variety, and when it's a different variety, it's going to change the way the boutonniere looks just by adding a different flower. Then also you can give them the option to wear it horizontally or vertically. That's also going to change the way it looks. And then you can also change, do we want the chic leaves or do you want the rose leaves? Really, in all, when you start adding things in, the placement and how you place it ends up being the same. So you're not increasing your labor, but you're allowing them to have some flexibility using the exact same types of product, just creating different looks for them. That's how you can work production and still allow the design to be individualized. It is possible, and we highly recommend doing that because that's what's going to set you apart. That when you bring out and you have all these different boutonnieres and all these different corsages, you're really going to be noticed, and those kids are going to keep coming back time and time again. Also wanted to show you a couple alternatives using, again, the same concept, the same items that we did with this boutonniere here, but we've got them in a couple different ways. Here's one where we've fringed the River of Diamonds, and we're doing it vertically. Same items is just given as ornament. Here a question.
Susie, which magnet item did you use?
On these, I used the design disc.
Design disc?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that magic magnets? No, that's design disc too. Okay, thank you.
That's a design disc. Both of these were the design disc. Here's a little fancier version. I've actually, again, just used the lily grass, but this time I used one of our little bit higher end or nicer foliages, which is the forest path, and created kind of the same look. It's just another way of kind of the same type of products. This is just kind of zhuzhed up a little bit higher price point. But you want to be able to offer them those types of options because we never know when they walk in the door whether they have $20 to spend on their boutonniere or whether they have $35 to spend on their boutonniere. And if all we're doing is offering that $15, $20 option, we're really the ones that are limiting ourselves and limiting the potential we have of selling higher priced items. Don't just assume because in the past your boutonnieres were $15. When they start seeing options like this and they start seeing that they're $25, $35, $40 for a boutonniere, really if it's what they like and it's what they want and they're attracted to it, that price is only your barrier. It's not their barrier. They're going to buy what they like and what they want to wear. So make sure you have some of those fancier, higher end, what we call signature corsages and signature boutonnieres available for your prom kids to select from. Just some of our other fun ideas. This is actually one of our buckles that we use the same design disc on the back to create kind of an interesting boutonniere. These actually come in a couple different shapes. There's a round, there's a heart, there's a butterfly, but we do have quite a few other buckles in our inventory that can be used for boutonniere backs, along with one of our magnet pieces. Here's one of our feathered nests, used as a boutonniere with just a little flower tucked down inside. Now some of you may say, oh, there's no way. But you know what? You don't know what those kids are going to be interested in, what they're going to gravitate towards. And we've got to have a little bit of creativity for everybody. And let's remember, you know, the kids today have so much information being streamed to them on their phones and computers that they're really a lot more open to fun and artistic designs than what we think they are. So don't be afraid to show off some of these items and let them know that you're able to create them and make them, and you'll be surprised how well the guys will love wearing some fun, fantastic boutonnieres.
Well, you know the rule on what it is of what the guy wears for his boutonniere, right?
Well,
whatever the girl tells him to.
Let me see. Oh, nope, that's all I have in my little surprise package. So unless you have any further questions for me on the boutonniere techniques, and if you do and you think about them later, you can always email us at service@creationsbyfitzddesign, or if you think of it before the webinar's ended, go ahead and type it in and Jamie will get it to me, because we want to make sure that you have all the information you need to have fun and be creative with Fitz Design products. So we're here for you. We've got more webinars coming up, continuing on through the end of April on our Tuesday. So if you're interested in that, you can check out the schedule on our website, which is www.creationsbyfitzddesign.com. Be sure to follow us on our Facebook page. There's always up-to-date information on what's going on at Fitz Design, new products, programs we're presenting. So be sure to check us out there, and be sure to come back to us next Tuesday for next week's webinar. That's all I have. I'm going to turn it over to Dan Fisher, and he's going to give you some really important and helpful marketing tips to get you on your way for this coming prom holiday. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you next time around.
Thank you very much, Susie. Jamie, go ahead and pop up the poll for us. Okay, one more second on the poll. Interesting response, just so you kind of know. 63% say the girl orders the boutonniere, 11% the boy's mother, 26% the girl's mother, and the boy got a big fat 0. So he's not ordering from anybody that's on here today. Okay, Jamie, go ahead and pull down the poll. Okay, what I want to do first is a little interactive with you. Take a minute or a few minutes and share with me what you got out of that webinar. What are the helpful points that you got so far out of what Suzie did? You'll notice next to your name there's a little hand. If you'll click on the hand, raise your hand, I'll unmute you. And this is good feedback for me. I'd like to know what it is that piques your interest. What did you get out of here? What is it that works for you? Okay, you guys, don't be shy.
Hello.
Yep.
Hi, this is Donna. I'm from Sweetbriar Flower Shop in Galloway, New York. And I don't mind sharing with you at all. I really got out of this the creativity. I do try to do a lot of creativity that Suzie had used. Different textures onto other textures.
Okay, super, great.
Yeah, I thought that was just fantastic. Also, I liked the way she used the 2 different glues.
I must have stepped away. I missed that part.
Oh, I'm sorry. I also like the way Suzie used the 2 different techniques that she used the glues.
Okay. Yep.
Onto flat surfaces. That was was really good for me. I'm enjoying very much these webinars.
Okay, great. Thank you, Donna.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anybody else?
Donnie Moore.
Okay, Donnie, share with us. Donnie, is your microphone turned on? Okay, Donnie, give us another try if you can sort out on the microphone there. Anybody else? Okay, well, let's go on and go through the marketing tips. This is actually the second portion of what we would call basics marketing. So I'm going to pick up where we left off at the end of the first one and continue on with what I would call some very basic must-do kinds of things. So one of the things we talk about, the name is Fisher, Dan Fisher, and I love to fish. And in its simplest terms, there are really 2 ways to go fishing. You can go down to the stream, ocean, lake, creek, pond, whatever it is, throw your hook in the water, and then pray that the next 4 things happen. First, that a fish swims by where you are. Second, it's hungry. Third, it likes the bait you're using. And fourth, you can actually hook it and get it to shore. That's one way to go fishing. Or you can go fishing like I go fishing. Most of these were over Thanksgiving weekend, a number of different years. As you can see, I go fishing often around Thanksgiving. This one here, the picture on the left was the front page of the Florida Keys newspaper for a week. The picture on the right was our Thanksgiving dinner in Costa Rica. If you ever see Costa Rican mahi-mahi on the menu, that's what it is. This was one day, and this was actually the next day. This side was the Gulf side of the Florida Keys, this side the Atlantic Ocean. The key, though, the reason I bring this up or the reason I talk about it is the key is you have to go where the fish are. If you sit in your shop and expect people to come to you and that's how you're going to grow your business, you're not going to get anywhere near the kinds of trophies or strong success or the ability that the others do, or that are the folks that get out of their stores and go out to where the customers are. So we're going to talk a little bit about not sitting there by the ocean or sitting there by the lake, but actually getting out and going to where those customers are and finding them. Another key important point for us is connecting with the girl. We talk about this often, and it's one of the points that people really struggle to seem to understand the depth of what we're trying to say. The first thing we're trying to say is anybody can write an order. Anybody can sell a corsage. But the key for generating this customer to be an ongoing customer going forward is to make sure that you connect with them, that you spend some time with them, you get to know them, you treat them the way florists treat customers, and it isn't about what color's your dress, how much do you want to spend. It is about spending the time to get to know them. What is their dream? What does their dress look like? How can you take those components and put them together and put a corsage together and all of those things that go together like that. So here's some things you can do to make sure that you're connecting with the girl in a very comfortable way, that you're comfortable with her when she comes in. One of them is, have you been out and visited the dress stores? Do you have an idea of what this year's styles are, this year's colors, this year's materials, flow, motion, all of those kinds of things? The more comfortable and the more knowledgeable you are about that, when they come in and show you dresses that you've already seen, you've had a chance for your imagination, your creativity to work, and then to be able to say to them, oh, I know what we can do. We can add this and put this in here and really add a lot of texture, motion, and selling price. At the same time, if you've been into the tux stores, are you familiar, like we said, with the textures and styles for this year? Been to the prom dress stores and find out if they're having prom fashion shows this year. And if so, how can you get involved with them? How can you provide the corsages for them to be wearing during those prom fashion shows? Have a table at the prom fashion shows, show the styles, the creativity, the colors, the type of design work that you can do, and get all of that together. And again, it's a whole lot different when you're talking to her when you come from a base of knowledge than when you come from having just seen the dress, just began to understand pricing really for the first time. So the more time you can spend in their environment, the more comfortable it's going to be when they come in and start working with you. So here's something, take a sheet of paper and jot down a couple of ideas. What are things you can do in your store that will help you connect with the girls more often? We talk a little bit about prom fashion shows, but again, we're talking about go where the fish are. So this is an excellent way to get in contact and work with girls outside of your store. Almost every school has a prom fashion show. The dress companies and the tuxedo companies coordinate with the prom committee about having an educational event at the school to make sure their students know about the latest colors, styles, textures, price points of what's out there to make sure that they're the most stylish girls at the prom. You can easily become a part of these, and we see it happening real regularly, is to visit with that dress store and ask them if you can provide corsages for the models. At the same time, ask them if they mind if you set up a table where you can do the same thing they're doing. They're showing lots of different dress styles. Can you do the same thing and show lots of different corsage styles? So what we suggest when you get connected and you're able to do this is that you make the corsages that go with each of the individual dresses, and then that day you let the models keep them and wear them throughout the school. Everybody's going to stop them, want to know where their beautiful flowers came from, and you're going to get the opportunity for them to continue to repeat, they came from your flower shop, came from your flower shop, came from your flower shop. So get in touch with the prom committee at your school, see if they're hosting a prom fashion show, ask if you can get involved, talk to the dress store, see what you can do to get involved with them. And this is a great way to get out in front of the girls instead of just waiting for them to come into your store. So here's one shop that went to a prom fashion show, and here's kind of what their results were. Their average sale went from $22 to $29. Now this was a few years ago, and that doesn't seem like a big deal. But actually that's a 30% increase, and that is a really big deal. They got 100 more orders from the school. This was a shop that thought they dominated the school, but in fact they picked up another 100 or so more orders than they had before. One of the other things about this shop was that all of the other things we had been teaching they felt like wouldn't work for them. The boys came in and did the ordering, and that was challenging for them. Nobody wanted to buy keepsakes. They only wanted the elastic band. They wanted inexpensive things. So as we go through here, 85% of the orders came from the girl, where in the past it had been 95% of the orders came from the boy. So one of the things we identified was that happened because the girls saw so many great things during these prom fashion shows. She tried to explain them to the boy or told him what she wanted, and in fact the boy said it was just easier for her to go and order what she wanted. And we know all the time that when you're working with the girl, you're going to get a lot bigger orders than you're working with the boy. Only 3 of the orders, which was over 250, were on non-Fitz bracelets. 3 of them were on elastic bands. Part of the process, again, was to tell them when they come in, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick out your bracelet. They followed that leadership. They did that. And of this, only 3 of them were not on Fitz bracelets. A $3,950 increase with a minimal investment of time by just doing one strategy and getting connected with the prom fashion shows. Again, getting out in front of them so they can see the kind of beautiful things that you can do. Here's one of the reasons that this is so important about connecting with the girl. The girl becomes the flower buyer going forward. When there's a family, the lady does most of the ordering. So if we look at real quick, and we've looked at extrapolating some numbers, one of the things we figure is if you connect with the girl and you really become her florist going forward, that over the next 30 years you can probably expect about $35,000 in sales from hers. Now, one of the things I like to point out is florists love their sympathy work. Big dollars, they get to be creative. $500 casket spray, everybody is celebrating. However, one of the things we all need to stop and take into account is every casket spray we're doing, we've buried a customer. And for every casket spray we do, we need to find 10 new customers. And one great way to do it is to really have a high focus on connecting with these prom girls when they come in, and that will help you generate large numbers of new customers going forward, and then create your marketing plans, your sale plans to talk to these people, these young ladies, all the time going forward. This is what I just said about the sympathy work. Looking at being able to sell at the school. There are some schools that are going to say, no, you can't do this unless we invite everybody. That's not always the case. One florist shared with me that they shared with the school, you know what, every fundraiser you have, I participate with. Every fundraiser that someone comes in and asks for, we have bought the candy bars, the magazines, whatever it is. Now it's not unreasonable for me to ask you to let us come in and generate some more money that we know is going to end up coming back to you also. We do a webinar on fundraisers. Fundraisers are a great way to be able to sell at the school, making sure that you've got flyers out at the school, lots of images that they can see the different types of work that you're doing. We provide checklists. We provide letters that you can send to the school saying that you would like to. If you're challenged at the public school, it's unlikely that you'll be challenged at the private school. The private school doesn't have that same attitude or that same scenario that if we invite you, we have to invite everybody else. They understand that attending a private school means that money has to be raised, whether it's coming from the parents or the things that they want to be able to get and add new to their schools. Everything has to be done through a fundraiser because they're not getting any tax dollars. So if you're running into a brick wall at the public school, look at going to the private schools and seeing if you can have some more luck there. This we talked a little bit about, but in a little more detail. If you do get that invitation to come to the school, make sure you come prepared. I wouldn't make this as much about a selling event as much as it would be an educational event and maybe an appointment setting event. So I'd make up 10, 20, 30, 40 different looks. Make up some beautiful presentation boards to take with you with your samples and complimentary boutonniere pieces to go with them. Then there's something we call about roving billboards. We suggest that you take a minimum of 12 corsages. You're going to take 6 corsages to give to the students. You're going to take them and give them to those very flamboyant, very energetic girls who are not going to mind walking around the school showing everybody what they got and repeating that they got it from your flower shop. We also suggest that you take 6 more, at least 6 more, and provide those to what we call the roving faculty. Mrs. Smith, who teaches history in room 2, great lady, she doesn't get one. The people who are constantly up and down the hallways do get them. Coaches, principals, counselors. There's always that certain group of teachers who are constantly on the move. If you wanted to get a whole bunch of them seen, you might provide them to the lunch ladies because there's a whole bunch of people going through the cafeteria. But you want them seen. You want people to stop and ask them about them. Where did they get it? And in return, they're going to say, well, we got it from your flower shop. So make sure you've got these to be able to take and have them walking around the school bragging about you. The other thing is if you do get invited, make sure you don't go for just one day. I guarantee you my middle daughter, no matter how many times it was advertised, would not have had what she needed on that day. The other thing is encourage them for both the boy and the girl to come together. Ask about getting on the morning announcements so that they know that you're coming. Again, I wouldn't try and sell, but I would try and make appointments or offer some type of a promotion that gets them in so they can see all of the kinds of things you can do. You can get the picture of the dress, they can bring the dress, and you can make that great, great corsage and matching boutonniere and have those beautiful fashion accessories and that third piece that goes with her on your schedule where you're not so rushed. So look at going where the fish are, out of your store. Prom fashion shows and into the schools are a great way to do it. These are pretty much the same things that we talked to you, just mentioned. Send them letter about the fundraising, and we've got, again, we've got a webinar on that, and it's recorded on YouTube where you can watch that. Take out an ad in the school paper. Make sure that you're getting out in front of them as many ways as possible. Put it on your sign outside that you're going to be at the school during these days. Put it on your orders that are going out. Put it on your Facebook. Everywhere you can, get the message out that you're going to be there so you get the most number of people. And then when you come, I'd empty my cooler. I'd bring buckets and buckets of flowers. There's two things we know that draw extra attention: color and motion. So I'd have lots of color, I'd bring lots of flowers, and then be making some things while they're there, show them the kind of work you can do, the detail, the creativity, and just have a whole lot of fun with this. This is a great idea, and I apologize, I don't remember the florist's name who told me this, but volunteer to be on the prom committee. For the most part, you know everything that's going on in the prom, and you've got the inside track for a whole bunch of things. When it comes to decorating for the prom, they're going to look to you because you're right there in front of them. Asking again about coming and selling at the school or doing a fundraiser, you're a part of them. You're more likely to get that invitation because you're doing something that benefits them and not just benefits you. So look at doing that and see if that doesn't help you. But this is a great idea to know everything that's going on in the prom. And the nice thing is you can volunteer every year, and then you become one of those strong, well-trusted advisors that's there to help them year after year. Make it special. This is about connecting with the girl. So the question I like to ask is, when is the last time you received a handwritten thank you card? And then the next question is, when is the last time you sent a handwritten thank you card to a 16-year-old girl? We can all remember the last time we received a handwritten thank you card. I received one this morning from a presentation I did last week. Everybody remembers that. We know the impact of that. So knowing the impact of that, let's make sure we do more of it. And for a girl who lives on her phone and only gets emails and texts, to get a handwritten thank you card in the mail is going to be something that's really going to stand out. In there, now you work with her where she normally lives. Maybe you put an email or a website coupon in there, some way to get her back in the store and to draw more attention. But again, you want to connect with her where you are her florist going forward. There's a shop that shared with us that they do custom fittings for their corsages. And when the girl comes in, they actually take it out to her on a silver platter. If you're the girl coming in and someone walks out with your corsage pieces on a silver platter, I think that's something you're going to remember. And then the one everybody loves is in the lower right-hand corner. It's the rose. So here are the questions that go with that. How much does a single long stem red rose sell for? In a box. With that really, really, really expensive ribbon that you've got in the back room. Now, generally, the price I hear is between $10 and $15. So the way this works is when the boy comes in, you take the boy aside and you say to him, here, let me help you out. Let me explain how this is going to work for you. First, we're going to take care of the corsage for your date. And when you go in to give it to her, you'll present it to her. You'll kiss her on the cheek because the parents are watching. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to take this beautiful long stem rose and present it to the mother and say, and this one is for you. Now, one of four things happens after this is done. First, the mother was my wife, and she saw right through your ploy. Curfew just got cut in half. The other is she's like most ladies who haven't been given flowers in a very long time, and now the deadbeat boy who is taking her daughter to the prom is now a prince because he knew to bring flowers to the mom. We say in Texas they probably put another bullet in the gun. The fourth thing that we're finding out, though, is that about 3 or 4 days later, the husband, who was shown up by the deadbeat boy giving the flowers, is calling the flower shop and ordering flowers for his wife. But one of the things you've done is you have trained that young man to see the impact of what giving flowers does. And if you can do this on 25% or 50% of your orders at $10 or $15 a piece, how much more are your sales going to go up? We have people say to us often, I can't get any more for my corsages, I've topped them out. But one of the things we want to talk about is, okay, if that's the case, then can you get more for your boutonniere? Can you get more by adding a third item? Can you add more by selling this rose? Can you get the total sale up so that it becomes more and more prom dollars? It doesn't always have to be just about increasing your prom, your corsage sales, but maybe there's other ways to add sales dollars to your prom sales. This is at a florist review last year, and this is just sharing with you that the ideas that we share with you, florists do and have success. And it means a lot more when it comes from one florist to another than when it's us just sharing it with you. So this first one's kind of interesting. They became the official florist of the school, and they provide a rebate back for every order. The prom fashion show you see is listed here. Actively showing interest. This is what we would say about connecting with the girl. Using the model students, we shared with you about that. Having a bling buffet, great idea. Get all of your stuff, your bracelets, your bling, your ribbon, anything that you can add into corsages and boutonnieres and fashion accessories, and get them out front. Create a buffet for them to see all of the components that they can work with. Make sure you're offering unique things. Nobody wants to go and see 5 spray roses in a bow, and the only thing that changed was the color of the bow. And the other is, here's a shop in New York that ensures that there's no duplication, and this is beginning to happen more and more. A good prom dress store makes sure that the same dress is not sold to the same prom. And girls are becoming to expect more and more of this out of their florists. If they're creating a beautiful corsage, beautiful fashion accessories that go with it, they want to make sure that that same look, that same style isn't there on another girl. So again, great ideas from florists. They're the same things that we share with you, but here you see florists who are actually making them work. Prom All-Stars. Again, this is getting out of your store, going and finding a group of people who can work with you. All of these people are in the prom business in one way or another, but how can you market and promote together? Hair salons, nail salons, tanning salons, spas, the dress stores, the tux stores, limousine companies. And each one of you probably knows someone in one of these areas, and maybe you find a small couple of people to start working with. But one of the things that's important is don't try and do this all yourself. If you get some other people working together and you share ideas, you get to be a whole lot stronger. So look at putting together a group of prom all-stars. As a group, put together some type of a benefit for if somebody orders from everybody in the group. Sharon McGuckin shared with us a number of years ago that the reward was a t-shirt, and the t-shirt just happened to promote all of the locations. So it said prom and their year on it. On the back it listed all of the different companies that were involved in their prom all-stars. So look at forming a group of prom all-stars. You're not going to do that sitting in your store. You go out and meet with the prom, with the hair salon or the nail salon to say, hey, we're both in this business together. How can we work together? Would you like to work with me? I'd like to work with you. Sit down and have a face-to-face, get to know some people, and see what you might be able to do. Again, getting out of your store and finding a way to connect with more and more girls and getting more people repeating your message for you. Okay, again, same piece of paper, grab a pen or a pencil. Who are people that you would go to that instantly come to mind that you would want to make a part of your prom all-star group? Write these down. Make yourself a deadline. What's the deadline? By this date, I want to have talked to this group of people to see if they're interested. Also make a backup plan. This might be your first choice hair salon, but what's your second and third choice? Maybe if the first choice doesn't work out or they don't respond fast enough, you move on to the second and third. You've got your plan put together. Here's plans and goals in action. Your goal is to create a group of prom all-stars. Your plan is who are the different people that you're going to contact and what are you going to offer on working on together. This is very important. Make sure you're doing an after prom review. Make sure you're sitting down with your team and not just rushing on to the next one. And here's the most important question you have to ask. You and your team have to ask the question, what did we do right? And don't leave that question until you have 20 answers. This is one of the hardest questions you will ever have to answer. But sit down and look at it. Find those things that you do really good, and next year do them even better. And you'll find that that's how you develop a great niche and a great following, by doing certain things really, really well, and then keep raising the bar on yourself every year. One of the things that you will find on our website in the Support Marketing tab, here is an after prom review worksheet. Fill this out with your group, save it. When you start to do your planning next year, you've got everything all put together, your details from last year. If you know what you sold, you want to create your goal for next year, you know what your foundation was from last year and how to grow on that. Okay, that's it for me. What questions can we answer for you today? Jamie, you see any questions coming in?
I do not have any yet.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. Next week we are doing prom traditions, which is our kind of our basic one. A question came in, we'll have access to the after prom sheet, the prom review. Yes, the prom review is on the Support Marketing tab of our website. So next week is prom traditions, and we'll do the first part of this, Marketing 1 session, and then in the afternoon session we're doing hair designs. Hair designs are becoming more and more popular, and actually next week Jackie Lacey is our designer. So I'm sorry it won't be Suzie. Jackie is a great, great designer. Lots and lots of creativity, so you'll see lots of really cool ideas. If you're not logged in or signed up for next week's, make sure you do. Jackie does just tremendous work. So if there aren't any questions, thank you very much. Everybody have a great afternoon. Take care.